100% transparent by having them online all the time so that we can know exactly how much money that we're spending and where it's going. I think that that level of transparency is going to help for efficiencies and certainly curb any kind of corruption that's going on. And that's basically the job of the people on council. We're here to make sure that staff does their job properly. I don't feel that they have been in the last few years, and I would like to bring a little bit more power back into the office, be a little bit more open door policy. It's my intention that if I become mayor, that will be my primary occupation that I do with my life, and I will be there full time to serve in that capacity. And I hope you vote for me. I'll tell you more about why you should, obviously, throughout the rest of the evening.
All right, thank you so much. So our first question, we'll start with you, John, and work our way down. I ask that as you respond, please keep your eye on Hannah, so she will be keeping time. Remember, each question, you have 3 minutes to respond. So our first question is one that was also posed to the candidates running for the office of City Council. With racial tensions escalating on a national level, many students and community members are concerned with the placement and the existence of the Vance Monument. Where do you stand on this issue, and if elected, how will you address the citizen concerns on race relations?
Right now, we don't even know who owns the property, and yes, it is going to be very complicated to figure out what we can actually do within the powers of City Council. What I would like to have happen, what I believe should happen, is that all 3 of the Confederate monuments are to be taken down. I don't think that we should spend any more money to try to move it. I don't know what a 50-foot obelisk would look like out in the middle of the woods, and I don't know how well it would travel horizontally. It would obviously take a lot of effort to make that happen. I think that these monuments went up to send a message, and I think that they should be taken down to send a message. I don't think that it's necessarily the most pressing thing to do because it's so emotional right now. I don't think that surrounding the monument and throwing up scaffolding and taking it down brick by brick today is going to serve the greater good with the amount of emotions that are behind it. But I think that it should just be thoroughly taken down, and since there is also so much support for it to be taken down, I just want to also say I think it's ugly. So, I get to get that shot in too. I just don't, I don't think that it's very pretty in the first place. So, since we're going to take it down, I don't think that we should waste any more money on it. I think that we should recognize why those monuments were put there, and use that as a message as to where we're going to go forward with all the practical things that we need to do to deal with racial issues in town. We have a huge achievement gap. We have the biggest achievement gap between black students or minority students and white students, primarily black students in Asheville City Schools. Highest achievement gap in the state. And I think that that's a very alarming paradox for a town that claims to be so thoroughly liberal and progressive in the historically racist state of North Carolina, where other historically racist school districts are doing better than we are in that capacity. I don't know exactly what to do with that, but I think there are some things around our schooling that may be exacerbating that problem. I think that we should look at how much money and how much power the Buncombe County Tourism Development Authority has in the matter as it pertains to race. This is a staff of 24 people, and last time I checked online, there was 1 person of color. All of everybody else was white. And so when we wonder why Asheville is not attracting more minorities and why we're losing them, I think that is an issue that needs to be looked at as well. So as far as the other things that we can do, we're hiring an equity manager to make sure that everything is above board with our hiring practices, where we can make improvements in city staff hiring, and those are the things that we definitely need to be working on.
I have spoken on this issue already, and I feel very strongly that we need to remove Confederate monuments nationwide. I see them as just a result of institutionalized racism and a reminder of a time that we should not honor in our public places today. I know a lot of people say we'll move them to museums, and that may be all well and good. I don't have thoughts about that necessarily, but I believe we should remove our Confederate monuments. We obviously have a problem in North Carolina because in 2015, the state legislature passed a law saying no city or county could remove monuments regardless of whether they're Confederate or not, without approval from the state. So, and the governor has called for a repeal of that legislation, and I understand Senator Terry Van Duyn will introduce legislation in the short session to allow cities and counties to make their own decisions about their localities and their monuments in their localities. This is a complicated issue, and I thank UNC Asheville for hosting a forum this last Thursday and Friday on Vance in particular. It was an opportunity to hear a thoughtful discussion about our history and the role that Vance played in it. We not only have the Vance Monument, we also have Vance Elementary School. We have other, not just monuments in our community, but we have other things that memorialize a time that we are now, a majority, I think, of Ashevilleans are not wanting to honor. So what can a city do in this larger issue, surrounding race? I tell people, when we talk about issues at the city, I really don't care what we're talking about. We're really talking about race. And that is true in so many southern cities. If we're talking about transportation, if we're talking about housing, if we're even talking about zoning, if we're talking about education, we're really talking about race. We're talking about race and poverty in Asheville, because race and poverty are so aligned in our city. This is not true statewide, as much as it is in Asheville. We have 18% of our African American population living in public housing or on Section 8 vouchers, whereas only 3% of the African American population statewide lives in public housing or on Section 8 vouchers. So that is an issue that we have done some things. We have been able to create an African American Heritage Commission in concert with the Center for Diversity Studies here. They will be looking at ways to memorialize the contributions of the African American community to Asheville. We're also working with the Blue Ribbon Task Force to create a Human Relations Commission, again, to help address racial issues. And as Jonathan mentioned, we have hired an equity manager, which is like an equity auditor, internal auditor.